Times best-selling author and National Radio Hall of Fame inductee, Michael Savage.
You know, today's show on the podcast is called Fake Hate Crimes Can Trigger a Civil War. But the news today is somewhat of a reverse hate crime. It's hateful. Kamala Harris set for lunch with Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton is the greatest civil rights hoaxer in the history of the United States of America. A man who should have been thrown in jail a long time ago for his Tawana Brawley hoax, not paying taxes, his rent-a-mobs. Now, why would Kamala Harris need his support? Why? Because two peas in a pod. They're both gaming the system, trying to use race as a weapon to engage the presidency. Here they attack Donald Trump for being divisive, racist, which he isn't. And here they are acting racist and divisive in the most disgusting manner. The 54-year-old California pal and Sharpton will feast on soul food. Ugh. Well, if you like salt, you're going to love soul food. What's soul food? There's no such thing as soul food. It's an invention of the media. At Sylvia's restaurant in Harlem, New York, as they discuss criminal justice reform and other critical issues, according to the National Hold-Up Network. The National Action Network. The National Hold-Up Network. Afterwards, Al Sharpton will take questions from the media. The get-together is on the heels of Harris's announcement last month that she's running for president. Yeah, right. She can run all she wants. She ain't catching it. By the way, guess who else went to Sylvia's restaurant to meet with Al Sharpton, the con man? Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, who also dined with him at Sylvia's. How could you say you dine on soul food? On Tuesday, Sanders threw his hat into the ring after his failed 2016 bid. Is he also going to get his hands and knees and have some soul food with Al Sharpton? What a meal that would be. Okay. Soul food at Sylvia's. That's the beginning of today's show. Fake hate crimes could trigger a civil war. Why would anyone go to Al Sharpton for his approval to run for the presidency? Do you actually think that intelligent, educated blacks don't know what this piece of garbage is? Well, now let's go to some real hate crimes that look like finally we're getting some truth here. Jussie Smollett. I don't know why his name is Jussie. Maybe his mother made a mistake and she thought it was Jesse and they spelled it wrong. I mean, Jussie. I never heard of such a name. Is his name Jesse? Okay, Jussie Smollett. Is there a name in the English language called Jussie? Yes, now there is. Well, a new iteration of this story is he once lied to cops during a DUI arrest. He provided false information during a DUI stop in Los Angeles in 2007. He gave the name of his brother Jake, and he signed a false name on the promise to appear in court. Later charged with false impersonation, driving under the influence of driving without a license. Pleaded no contest, blah, blah, blah. So Smollett, that's just to you. Now 36, was sentenced to 2 years probation, and he completed an alcohol education and treatment program, but he didn't complete a lying, filthy pig program, and completed the terms in May of 08. The old case came to light as authorities investigate whether the Empire Act. What is Empire? What is Empire about? Who would go to that? That's as good as Shakespeare, I'm sure. Just as literate. Empire. Bigger than King Lear. Empire. Well, apparently authorities are investigating whether they could sweep under the rug whether the star of this play or TV show concocted a story about being attacked by racists who wore MAGA hats and put a noose around his neck and bleached him with something. And by the way, the feds, so-called feds, whoever they are, what's a fed, are probing whether Smollett sent himself a suspicious threat letter a week before the alleged attack. You know what? If this guy spends 1 second in jail, even if he's found guilty of having done all these things to himself, I'd be quite surprised. The Jussie Smollett story has exposed the social justice movement for the complete fake that it is. What is the social justice movement run by social justice warriors? Well, I actually wrote about the SJWs in Stop Mass Hysteria. These are segments of society that consider themselves to be wronged by a majority that is using oppression to keep them down because they're so wonderful. These victims are segmented into groups such as class, sex, gender, race, other orientations. Anything but white need apply to be a social justice warrior. Now, the Smollett story covers a wide variety of victimhood under many of these banners. Let's see what they are. Let's see. In his case, it was a gay black man. who said he was assaulted by the oppressor group, white male conservative Trump supporters wearing MAGA hats. Oh, they ticked all the boxes. The media jumped on it. Oh, the media jumped on it, but it was a lie. Media made it into a bigger story. They said, this is the new normal, said Kamala Harris, the brain trust from San Francisco. But this is not the first time. Since the days leading up to and after Trump's election, there have been at least 18 other incidents that we now know were caused by social justice outrage, run by the media, and later were exposed as a hoax perpetrated by a member of the victim class themselves. Well, black church vandalism with pro-Trump or KKK graffiti spray paint, fake. So-called attacks on Muslims by white MAGA hat wearers, fake. Assaults on minorities simply based on race, fake. All found to be made up, or members of their own race performing said bad act. We have the proof right here. Now look, let's not excuse real racism. It exists, and exists on all sides of the political and the racial and real violence exists. We know that. For example, people are being beaten up in the streets of Brooklyn right now by blacks, and they're Jewish, religious Jews. So as you see, there are real race crimes, but you're not seeing that on NBC, CBS, ABC. I don't even think it made it to Fox News. There's an entire epidemic of Orthodox Jews being beaten in the streets of Brooklyn by black youths. But you have to read the story in detail till you find the black youth part of it. You have to search for it. First, it's a mystery of who's beating up the Hasidics, throwing rocks through synagogue windows, like in Kristallnacht in Germany. Then you read the story all the way to the middle, black youths. Oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. So racism really does exist, and violence really does exist. But the information about it is being manipulated by those in the media in order to paint a certain group as evil. And that group is always white, heterosexual, Christian, male Trump supporters. This is getting me very, very angry because I myself have been victimized by the vermin on the left, and they haven't found him yet. But the media not only insists in hyping these fake attacks by jumping to immediate conclusions because they want these things to be true. Don't you understand they want this to be true? Don't you understand they want to hate the white Christian heterosexual Trump supporter and make all of us into Nazis? But what do they do to the real attacks on people who do get attacked for racial or religious means? By burying those stories. I will read you a list of some of those attacks that are going on. Anti-Semitic, attacked, for example, simply because they were supporting Trump in some cases. The most recent that might come to your mind is the attack on the Catholic schoolboys in Washington, D.C., who were falsely accused of surrounding a Native American drummer, troublemaking bum, and mocking him. All fake. All fake. The Indian can't even be found now. The media's been looking for the Indian with the drum. They can't even find the smoke signal. Turns out the smoke signal even dissipated into the air. But the narrative still remains. The Catholic schoolboy attacked the poor Indian. This is nothing new. The legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. has been forever stained by the likes of Al Sharpton. Sharpton himself, who Kamala Harris is now kissing the ring of, is responsible for the death of several people in the past because of the lies he told to whip crowds into frenzies and brought death to them. He bragged about using hate, if that's what he had to use. He said it. And by the way, Al Sharpton didn't pay any kind of price. Although he was once looked at by many as an evil, troublemaking, civil rights violating bum from the gutters and a pariah, he never paid the price. He even got away without paying taxes. And he got a TV show for it. And now Democrats all go to have soul food with him at Sylvia's. But now everyday people are using the same vile tactics of Al Sharpton to promote fear, hate, and division. And when did this suddenly become acceptable? Why, it's the election of the magic man himself, Barry Obama. He made it cool to be a racist. But he was such a silk-smooth racist, you didn't even know he was putting a knife in you. That's how good he was. At the time, there was hope that after America elected a mixed-race president, he wasn't really a black president. Blacks don't consider him black. He had a black father and a white mother. So you could call him a mixed-race president, which is fine. But it's not his race that's the issue. It's his sick soul that was an issue. But we thought that with a mixed-race president, we could put our past of race problems behind us. But no, it got worse. Through Obama and Eric Holder and the numerous socialists and communists working for them and the armies of them in the media, it got worse. Remember his cabinet of czars that Obama appointed? No Senate approval, unelected people he put in charge of his pet communist projects. With the rise of Obama, hate rose as well. Hatred and division was escalated as fast as he escalated the national lie. And that emboldened a nation of his true believers to stand up and do in the streets what he was doing verbally. And so with the election of Trump, the nuclear bomb was set off because they were told it was okay now to attack people based on the fact that they were not a minority. We are now being divided as we have not been divided in modern history, at least not since the 1960s. And although the blame is being pushed on the current occupant of the White House, it is the social justice warriors and the liars in the media that are doing the most damage. You even have dumb politicians like Cory Booker coming out and saying that the Jussie Smollett story is Trump's fault because he invokes so much racism. That's even though it's a fake story. There's no sanity left in the political class. The psychosis within the social justice movement is doing great damage to the fabric of the society. And with the ease of access to information and the liars in the media who pay no price for disseminating pure propaganda, it will continue to spread like the disease it is and infect everybody and affect every one of us. They scream in the streets, no justice, no peace, and they're right. The injustice that they practice, for me and not for thee, could lead to another civil war.
The Savage Nation. It's savage, uncut, unfiltered, and raw.
Life insurance. Who wants to think about that? Well, everyone should think about it. It's something that everyone knows. They think they know everything about it. But do you really understand enough about life insurance to feel comfortable buying it? Look, whether you're an insurance expert or a newbie, Policy Genius created a website that makes it easy for you to compare quotes, get advice, and get covered. It gives you the power. You're in control. No one can pull any wool over your eyes. With Policy Genius, it's the easiest way to get life insurance. In just minutes, you can compare quotes from top insurers to find the coverage that you need at a price you can afford. From there, what you do is you just apply online, and the advisors at Policy Genius will handle all the red tape. They'll even negotiate your rate with the insurance companies. No extra fees, no commission sales agents, just helpful advice and personalized service. Better yet, Policy Genius doesn't just make life insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for disability insurance to protect your income, homeowners insurance, or even auto insurance, Policy Genius can help you get covered really quickly. So listen, no matter how much or how little you know about life insurance, you can find the right policy in just minutes at policygenius.com.
Joe là cái thằng của
Policygenius.com.
gõ đi khám bệnh rồi á.
Why am I repeating it? Because Policy Genius is the easiest way to compare and buy life insurance. Write it down, policygenius.com.
The Savage Nation. It's savage on demand.
Well, now let's continue with our discussion of how fake hate crimes can trigger a civil war. Let's pray to God it never comes to that. Let's look at actual left-wing violence in the Trump era instead of the occasional violence from the right that has occurred. Yes, and it has occurred on occasion. However, there is an epidemic of violence from the left in the Trump era. Let's go back to February 2017. 4 Chicago gangsters, code words, were charged with hate crimes for kidnapping and beating a mentally disabled white student and live streaming video of it on Facebook, forcing the victim to repeat anti-Trump taunts. I don't know if they're working yet for Bernie's campaign. We don't know where the gangsters are. February 2017, protesters knocked the 71-year-old female staffer for California GOP rep Dana Rohrabacher unconscious during a protest outside the representative's office. We don't know where the, quote, protesters are. Perhaps they're now working for Kamala Harris. June 2017. In Indiana, shots were fired at a pickup truck flying a Make America Great Again flag. Congressman Steve Scalise and 5 others were shot by rabid anti-Trump activist and former Bernie Sanders volunteer James Hodgkinson prior to a congressional charitable event. He had a list of names of the Republican lawmakers he wanted to murder. We don't know where this shooter is today. Let's hope he's not working for Bernie Sanders. August 2017, 20-year-old man arrested and charged with battery and terroristic threats after punching a black Trump supporter, as seen in video footage, and then boasting about his violent act on Twitter. You bored? I'm not. February 2018, Trump supporter threatened with knife for not opposing Trump. Trump supporter's home vandalized in Oceanside, California. May 2018, black Trump supporter Eugenia Joseph was harassed by several liberal racists at a Cheesecake Factory location in Miami, Florida. Why? He wore a MAGA hat and he was a black guy. June 2018, a Democrat socialist mob, you know who they are, don't you? The Bernie Sanders occasional Cortex crowd, stalked and harassed Secretary of Homeland Security Nielsen. Prominent San Diego attorney Benjamin Israel Seminu violently attacked an elderly veteran without provocation at an anti-ICE rally in San Diego. And then this attorney cowardly ran away before being tackled and arrested by sheriff's deputies. His name, Benjamin Israel Seminu. We don't know where he is today. Let's hope he's not working for Bernie Sanders. Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, remember, was assaulted and spit on by left-wing activists that while viewing a film about PBS's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That's a scream. June of 2018, a leftist mob threatened Senator Mitch McConnell and his wife, Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao, at Georgetown University. Let's go on to July 2018 with our left-wing violence that's been swept under the rug by the government and the media. The Nebraska GOP headquarters attacked by Open Borders activists who smashed windows and spray-painted "Abolish ICE." In San Antonio, Texas, 30-year-old Kino Jimenez assaulted a 15-year-old boy for wearing a MAGA hat, throwing a drink in the boy's face and stealing his hat. Boynton Beach, Florida, homeowner Jeff Good attacked and assaulted by an unhinged leftist over a President Trump flag in his yard. We don't know where the attacker is. Maybe he's working for one of the leftists today. I can go on the streets at outgoing Portland, Oregon, Antifa riots. September 2018, another violent left-wing terror attack. The Wyoming GOP office is set on fire. Farzad Fazeli, arrested and charged with felony assault, criminal threats, brandishing a weapon, and possession of a switchblade knife after he attempted to stab Rudy Peters, the Republican opponent of Democrat Rep. Eric Swalwell. October 2018, a truck set on fire because of the pro-Trump stickers on the back. Deadly ricin assassination attempts made against President Trump, Secretary James Mattis, Secretary of the Navy, and Senator Susan Collins. Here's a real bad one, another one here. You don't know about this one. Susan Rice has a son. He's president of the Stanford College Republicans. Nice young man, John David Rice Cameron. Violently assaulted by a leftist at Stanford University. They were not thrown out. November 2018, former Obama campaign worker and, quote, queer man arrested for painting "Kill All Jews" on a synagogue. Don't know where he is today. Let's hope he's not working for Bernie Sanders. Fascist Antifa mob, organized by the far-left group Smash Races in D.C., tries to break into Tucker Carlson's house while his wife and family are home. Not to be forgotten is January 2019, which is just a month ago. As the Democrats took over the House, radio host Michael Savage received death threats that were so serious I was forced into hiding while federal, state, and local authorities were investigating the threats. The perpetrator of that threat is still unknown, by the way. He used an email address that disappears after 30 minutes used by all terrorists. Now let's look at a list of fake hate crimes since the Trump pre- and post-election. 11/16, 1 week before the presidential election, a black church in Mississippi was burned in an arson attack. Vote Trump was written on the building. We all panicked. An investigation later revealed the man responsible was a black church member himself. That's sick. 11/16, Muslim student at University of Louisiana said 2 white racist Trump supporters brutally assaulted her, ripped off her hijab, and robbed her. Story went viral by the vermin in the media. It was a lie. Media never identified this witch by her name after the hoax was revealed. Let's hope she's not working for the Democrats today. 11/15/16, right after Trump's election, the SPLC really stoked panic in this country. A pro-gay Episcopal church in Indiana was vandalized with Heil Trump, a swastika and anti-gay slur. Turns out, who did it? It was the gay organ player who did it. He stated that he, quote, wanted to mobilize a movement after being disappointed in and fearful of the outcome of the election. He was only charged with a little misdemeanor. Let's hope he's not working for a Democrat. I'm making you listen to this because no one has this list. You have it now on this podcast, and share it with friends. 11/23/16, an openly bisexual senior at North Park University claimed she was the recipient of a homophobic note and hateful emails following Trump's win in the election. But the school president did an investigation and reported that the notes were fabricated. 12/01/16, a 50-year-old black New Jersey man painted anti-black pro-Trump graffiti in his neighborhood after Election Day. One of the damaged cars was a white SUV that had Trump rules and black bitch spray painted across it in large black letters. No punishment. 12/21/16, an Arab student at the University of Michigan falsely claims someone threatened to set her on fire. Police say numerous inconsistencies in the statements provided by the alleged victim were identified. Now detectives have determined the incident in question did not occur. Her punishment? Let's hope she's not working for a Democrat. 3/23/17, the Diversity Leadership Council, Sieg Heil, at Gustavus Adolphus College, admits that it was, with the help of other social justice animals, planted fake racist flyers on campus to educate people about racism. Their punishment? Let's hope they're not working for Cory Booker. 8/1/17, a Jackson, Michigan LGBTQ rights activist whose home was destroyed in a fire in the summer of 2017 is charged with intentionally setting her own house on fire. What? Yep, you didn't see that one on the innocent blooper, did you? 9/13/17 in June, a small fire at a Des Moines, Iowa mosque generated national headlines. It was called a new normal, and all Muslims gathered around in fear of the white man. Well, until a young Muslim woman was arrested for starting it. Her punishment? We don't know. Let's hope she's not working for a Democrat. 9/13/17 in Houston, Texas, a suspicious fire at a Houston mosque in 2015 turned out to have been set by one of the center's own worshipers who prayed there 5 times a day for 5 years. Let's hope it wasn't a burning bush that set the mosque on fire. 9/13/17, an Ontario Muslim faked an assault against himself, claiming his assailant shouted anti-Muslim remarks, and the alleged hate crime fell apart after a 22-year-old Muslim man admitted he had exaggerated an assault in a Durham, Ontario park restroom. How can you exaggerate an assault? 9/13/17. In late August, you don't know this one, Anderson Cooper didn't get around to it with his fake eyeglasses. Indiana State University professor Azhar Hussain received 1 year's probation for fabricating anti-Muslim threats and an assault. 11/08/17. Remember this one? I'm sure you did. Racist graffiti galvanized the Air Force Academy in September 17. Remember we said, oh, the Air Force, oh, that can't go on. Hey, oh, yeah, what can go on? Nothing can stop the Army Air Corps. Well, now officials say the scrawled slur in the dormitory was a hoax by one of its own targets, a black cadet candidate who couldn't keep up with the others. You know, when you can't keep up, what you do is you come up with a hoax. I'm going to give you a few more just so you have the full list. 4/23/18. A former Eastern Michigan University student pled guilty Monday to painting racist graffiti on campus. Curlin, his name was, who is African-American, was charged with using red, white, and blue spray paint of KKK and the N-word, along with the word leave on the side of King Hall. We hope he's not working for a Democrat. Remember this one? 7/23/18, a way to fake the story that a customer wrote, "We don't tip terrorists" on receipt. They further investigated it and turned out the employee fabricated the entire story. You didn't see that one on NBC, did you, that night? How about this one? 8/24/19, a story about a white man urinating on a 5-year-old black child and calling her racial slur? Fabricated, according to Michigan police. That one didn't reach Alexander Cortex's brain. 12/01/18, there's only 2 more. I know it's a long list. A black college lacrosse player was arrested in connection with 2 incidents of racist graffiti found in a dorm on the Goucher College campus in Maryland. That didn't make it to the nightly news. And finally, and most recently, 2/12/19, actor Jesse Smollett claimed 2 Trump fanatics found him at 2 a.m., beat him, poured bleach on him, tied a noose around his neck, and yelled, "This is MAGA country," while wearing red MAGA hats. Looks like he may have orchestrated the whole thing himself. Don't expect to see that on the evening news. Now, I want to talk about the rise of attacks on Jews that are not being reported or that are underreported. This is a very big story because these kinds of attacks are now epidemic, and we haven't seen a spate of these attacks in America like this We know they're going on to Europe because of the large number of Muslims there, and leftists, by the way. Jewish man brutally beaten by 3 unidentified assailants in Brooklyn. The attacks were racially charged due to the fact that the assault was unprovoked and nothing was stolen from the victim. Now, this is not the first time New York Jews have been subjected to anti-Semitic attacks. Early in January of this year, a Jewish man was attacked by a group of teenage black males in the Crown Heights area of New York. Didn't make it to the evening news. The young Jewish man was violently assaulted. The attack is currently under investigation by the New York Police Department in conjunction with the Hate Crimes Task Force, but we know that under de Blasio, who protects minorities except Jews, this case will never see the light of day. One member of the group of teens, that's a code word when you see teens. By the way, why do they use the word teens like they're innocent? ISIS was filled with teens who had Kalashnikovs in their hand. What do you mean teen? You ever see a 6'2" teen? He could bust your head open with a single punch, a teen. One member of the group of teens approached the Jewish religious man and asked him, "Do you want to fight?" The teen then began to punch the poor Jewish religious man in the face. Victim taken to Maimonides Hospital, treated for light injuries. The group of teens fled, according to CCTV cameras. Several assaults have also occurred on Jewish victims in New York's Crown Heights, which is a Jewish area, over the last year. In December, an attack on a Jewish teen in Queens, New York, later classified as a gang incident, not a hate crime. How could there be a gang incident? Well, that's de Blasio's New York. The Jewish boy David Paltielov, 16 years old, remained hospitalized 1 week after the November 29th attack in the Forest Hills neighborhood. He was wearing a yarmulke and religious scarves at the time of the attack. 2 other Orthodox Jewish teens were attacked in separate incidents in Brooklyn on the same day. I got to remind you, this has not happened since the era of Nazism. I think you have to understand what's going on now as a result of the hate that's been triggered by Obama and the left. Here's another one. In October of last year, an Orthodox Jewish man was beaten at a traffic intersection in Brooklyn in an assault that was found to be a hate crime by the New York City Police Department. Way to go, de Blasio. The man was 62, carrying a special bag containing his prayer shawl and phylacteries, and appeared to be walking to morning services in his temple. The attack, which was captured on local tape, occurred when a man of Middle Eastern descent, meaning an Arab, got out of his car and chased the Jewish man into the middle of the intersection, where he threw him down on the road and began to beat him. Isn't diversity great? Isn't immigration just wonderful? Police say the incident began after a verbal argument broke out between the 2 men. Well, that's because the guy in the car tried to run him over while he's trying to cross the street. Here's another one. Oh, I know, it's too much for you, especially those of you who love Al Sharpton and Kamala Harris. May of 2018, a man was charged with first-degree strangulation as a hate crime and second-degree assault as a hate crime. He was also charged with illegal possession of marijuana. I told you marijuana triggers violence, but that's a separate story. The victim of the attack was Menachem Moskowitz, a 52-year-old Jewish father of nine. All he did was say good morning or good afternoon to a man who was smoking a cigar in a street corner. He got beaten up. There are other incidents in New York City that need to be talked about. But let's go back to the king of all racism in New York, Al Sharpton, with whom Kamala Harris will be having soul food at Sylvia's restaurant in order to kiss the ring of this racist pig. You don't know who he is, do you? You know who Al Sharpton is? You never hear of Tawana Brawley? When Al Sharpton was a fat pig in a jumpsuit with long hair, known as Reverend Al, a 15-year-old African-American girl named Tawana Brawley was discovered in a garbage bag, smeared in feces and with racial epithets written on her body in charcoal. Brawley claimed to have been raped by 6 white men, some of whom were police officers. Guess who led protests against them? None other than the fat pig with greasy long hair, Al Sharpton. That's before he went on a diet. He even accused detectives of doing it. Sharpton called New York Governor Mario Cuomo a racist and compared State Attorney General Robert Adams to Hitler. Tawana Brawley's supporters suggested that the Mafia, the Ku Klux Klan, and the Irish Republican Army may have been involved. Well, the whole thing turned out to be a hoax conducted by Tawana Brawley and her friends. She smeared herself with feces, put herself in the garbage bag. Sharpton was later sued successfully, I say successfully, by those he accused. And Sharpton's accusers were paid damages by Sharpton's supporters. Now, let's not forget Freddie's Fashion Mart. Never, ever forget Freddie's Fashion Mart the next time Kamala Harris tells you about Al Sharpton's ring. What is Freddie's Fashion Mart? The United House of Prayer, a large African-American church, was a major landlord in Harlem. They raised the rent on Freddie's Fashion Mart, a Jewish-owned clothing store, which had operated from the same Harlem location for over 40 years. In turn, Freddy's had to raise the rent on a subtenant, a black-owned record store. Well, a landlord-tenant dispute ensued. And as he had done in the past, Al Sharpton turned this non-racial economic dispute into a racial conflict. That's what he's done his entire life. The Sharpton-led protest began in August and came to a head in the morning of Friday, December 8th, when Roland James Smith Jr., who had been part of the Sharpton's protest, walked into Freddy's Fashion Mart, pulled out a gun, ordered all the black customers to leave, sprayed paint thinner on several bins of clothing, and set them on fire. A fire that resulted in killing 7 people, plus the idiot who set the clothing on fire, Smith. The only African American left in the store was Freddy's security guard, Kareem Bruner, 22 years old, who was ordered to stay by the mass murderer Smith. At the time, the faux preacher Sharpton claimed he wasn't involved in the protest. He was only there to mediate. He also claimed there was no anti-Semitism involved in the protest. But there are pictures of him with a bullhorn out there when Freddy's Fashion Mart went up in flames. A known liar that all the leftists now go to if they want to be a Democrat candidate for president. As we have seen in this long, long story, there have been fake hate crimes in this country for a long time. Hoaxes like the Smollett, but much worse in some cases. People have died, as in the Freddy's Fashion Mart case. And yet, here we are years later when one of the biggest perpetrators of racism in this nation, Al Sharpton, is now considered a kingmaker for radical left-wing candidates for the presidency. How any of you morons could ever vote for anyone who sits down for any kind of food with Al Sharpton is an indication of how sad this nation has become after all these years of weed and bad education. Thank you for listening to the Savage Podcast, and let's pray that the fake hate crimes come to a conclusion before it's too late.
Michael Savage, a host like no other.
If you don't believe what I'm saying about Al Sharpton, listen yourself from way back in the 1980s when he was still fat in a jumpsuit with greasy hair, saying that if he has to use hate to get things done, that's what he'll do.
I think that if hate is an emotion, I would love to use love. But if I've got to use hate, I'll do what my hand calls for. Yeah, I remember as an angry black man, I am an angry black man. We're trying to raise an issue of solving racial justice. If someone murders someone, it should not be dependent on the skin color of the victim or how they're punished. It should be equal protection under the law.
Oh, he's polished his act since then, hasn't he?
Well, I think that you're absolutely right. It is blatant. But my thing to the community is you fight back. The only thing that wins for us is a good, mobilized, mass action battle. I think I've exposed race relations in the city. That it's just taking a sheet or blanket off of what was always there. If I had to disturb race relations to aid racial justice, then fine. I plead guilty.
Now listen to Sharpton making excuses for the Tawana Brawley hoax that he pulled off.
What people would like to say is that because we marched, that we create racism. The fact is these people had the watermelon and knew very well how to say nigga and had been saying it for years, and I put it on the evening news. And that's what they're angry with me about. So I'm not out here for a popularity contest. We're talking life and death. If I make 40 years old, it'll be a miracle. I could give less than 2 cents about what people think about Al Sharpton. I'm talking about people dying, and that has to stop. What do we want? What do we want? If I've been able to help one family that couldn't have went anywhere else, if I've been able to put one criminal in jail that would have done it, it's all worth it to me. So justice, let's hit the box.
Now, today, the news media does the same thing. Here's a montage of the news reporting what Kamala Harris and Cory Booker had to say right after the fake attack on Jesse Smollett occurred. Listen to what they had to say when they were exposed for who they are.
And Senator Cory Booker said the vicious attack on actor Jesse was an attempted modern-day lynching.
Kamala Harris calling the attack an attempted modern-day lynching.
Which tweet? What tweet?
About saying that it is a modern-day lynching that...
Sorry.
Jesse Smollett.
Okay, so I will say this about that case. I think that the facts are still unfolding, and I'm very concerned.
Well, the information's still coming out, and I'm going to withhold until all the information actually comes out from on-the-record sources. We know in America that bigoted and biased attacks are on the rise.
Of course, Booker ignores the fact that this man made up a story, apparently. Booker still pushes the blame of America for being a racist nation. How does a man like that get away with this? They will not let anything get in the way of their narrative, even though your own eyes can see that they're lying. The alternative universe that they live in cannot be allowed to become reality, or we will die as a nation, and the truth itself will die. Listen and judge for yourself on the Savage Podcast.
Tiếp nhưng tình lại gì? Đứa con biết con hiểu.
Nói nguyên này quá hả? Châu chót Quỳnh chót vì gắt thật là